On October 7th, Hamas committed the most brutal massacre in the history of the Jewish state, killing more Jews than any other day since the Holocaust.
We didn't want this war. It was forced upon us in the most brutal and savage way. But though Israel didn't start this war, Israel will finish it.
We stand with Israel.
But before long, the United States and others wanted to know who would rule Gaza on the day after the war, and insisted that Israel could not be the party responsible for governing Gaza in a post-October 7th reality.
2 states for 2 peoples, which, in our judgment, remains the best guarantor, and maybe the only guarantor.
We do believe that the Palestinian Authority can and should have a role here.
What comes next? And in our view, it has to be a 2-state solution.
It is in the interest of both Israelis and Palestinians to move forward toward 2 states.
We cannot give up on peace. We cannot give up on a 2-state solution.
The Prime Minister of the Palestinian Authority was back in the limelight, advocating for a unilateral declaration of a Palestinian state.
You need a serious paradigm shift. Don't leave it to the Palestinians and Israelis to end the conflict.
But the Prime Minister of Israel pushed back.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he has told the United States he opposes the establishment of a Palestinian state.
לא אתן שנחליף את חמאסטן בפתחסטן, שנחליף את ח'אן יונס בג'נין. לא אתן למדינת ישראל לחזור על הטעות הגורלית של אוסלו.
Although the Oslo Accords may have made sense on paper more than 30 years ago, how has public opinion changed? And in light of those changes in public opinion, is the United States simply inviting a greater conflict between Israel and the Palestinian Authority? In this episode, we'll take a closer look at the 2-state rejection. Before we try to look at the future, we must first look back at the past and realize how we arrived at today. 30 years ago, Israel agreed to pursue an outcome of 2 states with the signing of the Oslo Accords under the formula of quote-unquote land for peace. Then, Israel went out on a limb to withdraw military and civilians in 2005 from the Gaza Strip as a pilot for the independent Palestinian entity. The Palestinian Authority was given the Strip to govern, but within a year, control of the Strip was wrestled away by Hamas, and the Gazans officially voted Hamas into power. The result? Tens of thousands of rockets fired at Israeli cities and a terror tunnel network spanning hundreds of miles underground. The violence culminated with the attack of October 7th. Results from a recent poll of Palestinians living in Judea, Samaria, and Gaza found that 98% of the respondents said that the slaughter made them feel prouder of their identity as Palestinians. Another poll found that 72% of respondents think that Hamas was correct in carrying out the massacre. A whopping 89% of the respondents denied that the Palestinian terrorists committed a war crime on October 7th. In an election between Abbas from Fatah and Haniyeh from Hamas, Haniyeh would win 78% of the vote. When given the opportunity to decide, Palestinians would elect Hamas to lead their future Palestinian state, just as they elected Hamas in the Gaza Strip. To understand why Israelis are now convinced that there cannot be a Palestinian state in Judea, Samaria, I went to Efrat. The Arab neighbors in Bethlehem building these illegal houses right up to the Efrat border don't seem to want a 2-state solution either. Attorney Michael Sperver lives near the current border of Efrat and Bethlehem. His house was shot at by an M16 sniper in the middle of the night from the direction of Bethlehem. The incident was just one of countless terror attacks targeting Jewish residents in the area. On July 22nd, 2022, more than 10 shots were fired.
It's happened in the children's room here. So when I waked up Tuesday morning, the hole that the bullet made here, and the bullet stopped here. And you can see what's happened. Actually, my wife, she was in the middle of the shower when we heard shootings. And she told me, it's here. I didn't believe her, actually. I thought it's regular, it's regular shootings, because they're shooting almost every night. But when I waked up in the morning, I saw it was true. Actually, they shoot it from there, nearby the illegal buildings. They shoot it on our house for 7 minutes. Yeah.
Efrat's 15,000 residents reside just south of Bethlehem, a predominantly Muslim and Palestinian Authority-run city. I asked Efrat's mayor Oded Revivi if anything could be done to stop the encroachment of houses taking place right up to the border of Efrat.
On the contrary, there are rumors that they're funding it, they're raising money within the European community to try to create facts on the ground. We don't have anything to do with any elected officials in Bethlehem because they're officials which get their pay from the Palestinian Authority. And if they will have anything to do with us, they will be treated as traitors and will be executed. So even if we could cooperate and bring a better reality to our residents and definitely to their residents, there's absolutely no communication and no contact with our neighbors.
Given what has taken place around the border of Efrat, and now seeing the massacre that took place in Jewish communities bordering Gaza on October 7th, I wanted to know what would need to happen before Israelis might consider supporting a Palestinian state.
Terrorists need to put their weapons down. They need to say that they have no claim over the land, that we have our state of Israel. They need to take a different approach of, instead of building tunnels to attack, they need to build schools, hospitals, industry to flourish and create a better economic system. Until they recognize the right of the Jewish people to have a Jewish state, there is no potential of having a Palestinian state.
Palestinian leaders are now essentially giving up the formula of land for peace and are demanding a state for Palestinians, even while refusing to put down their weapons.
We and the Americans and the Europeans and the Arabs should sit down in an international conference. Let's build the ceiling first. And the ceiling is a state of Palestine to be recognized by the international community. And then the Security Council should put together a team to bring us together and say, let's work on the borders, a demarcation of borders. Let's work on what to do with the settlement.
Listening to local Israeli leaders only paints one side of the story. It is equally as important to understand what Palestinian leadership is saying, not just in English, but also to their own people in Arabic. I sat down with Itamar Marcus, the founder of Palestinian Media Watch, an organization that closely monitors what appears on Palestinian-controlled television.
For over 20 years, we've been following all the internal messages of the Palestinian Authority to its people, through its social media, through its school books. There's no relationship between what they believe and what they're telling their people and what they tell the Americans or they tell the European leaders.
إسرائيل إذا خلعت المستوطنات 650 ألف مستوطن. إسرائيل إذا زاحت الجدار. إيش إسرائيل بيكون؟ إسرائيل بتنتهي، ما تحكيش للعالم. احكيها بينك وبين نفسك.
He says we ask for the 67 borders because we know Israel cannot survive those borders. Then he added, we can say it to ourselves, we can't say it to the world. Everything that we see about the Palestinian Authority indicates that's what their plan is.
And while the Palestinian Authority leadership pushes for a two-state solution as a method of destroying Israel in phases, Hamas is less nuanced in its approach and openly rejects the concept of a two-state solution.
وهنا أقول مسألتين في حل الدولتين. المسألة الأولى، نحن لا نقبل حل الدولتين. هذا مصطلح مرفوض، لأنه معناه أنك أنت لك دولة موعودة ومطلوب أنك أيضا تعترف بالدولة الأخرى اللي هي الكيان الصهيوني، تعترف بشرعيته. فهذه مرفوضة، خاصة بعد 7 أكتوبر. أظن تجدد الحلم والأمل. فلسطين من البحر إلى النهر، من الشمال إلى الجنوب.
Instead of punishing Palestinians for their brutality on October 7th, and listening to what both Israelis and Palestinians are saying about their desires for a two-state solution, the United States and other members of the international community appear intent on using the worst massacre in modern Israeli history as an opportunity to once again try and advance a policy that has failed to produce any semblance of peace for the last 30 years and is unlikely to yield peaceful outcomes in the future. Today, the US and the international community are abandoning the formula of land for peace, but not abandoning the outcome of a Palestinian state as they seek to reinstall the entity that lost control of the Gaza Strip to begin with.
Many countries in the region are really prepared to invest in a number of ways. It is essential to them that there also be a clear pathway to the realization of Palestinian political rights and a Palestinian state.
The US pressure is setting up a policy showdown with Israel.
מדינת ישראל חייבת לשלוט ביטחונית על כל השטח מערבית לירדן. אני אומר לידידינו האמריקנים, ואני גם בלבתי את הניסיון לכפות עלינו מציאות שתפגע בביטחון ישראל.
With both Hamas and Israelis rejecting the idea of a Palestinian state, perhaps another formula is necessary to end the conflict once and for all.